Thomas Hardy was born on 2nd June in 1840 in the village of Upper Beckhampton, about 3 miles from the town of Dorchester in southwestern England. The impressions of his early youth, the people, the events, the surrounding countryside became part of the subject matter of his Wessex novel and stories. The town of Casterbridge itself, for example, is molded after Dorchester. Hardy's father was a builder and stonemason and was by no means wealthy. His mother loved reading, and under her care, young Thomas was given an ample introduction to the classics, folk songs, ballads, and local stories and legends. Music was also a common feature of the Hardy's household. Thomas' father taught him to play the violin. He himself was violinist in the church choir and often played at parties, weddings, and festivals. Music was a great love throughout Thomas Hardy's life and often figures in his writing. At least three important scenes in The Mayor of Casterbridge involves music. Hardy did not study in a university. His formal education consisted of a year in a village school at Lower Beckhampton and additional private schooling in Dorchester, during which he learned French and German. When he was 16, his father apprenticed him to a Dorchester architect, John Hicks, where he was taught architectural drawing for the restoration of churches and old houses. Indeed, this association taught him much of local family histories and folklores. When the day's work was completed, Thomas usually undertook advanced Latin studies and the task of teaching himself Greek. In 1862, Hardy went to London as a draftsman and worked in the office of A. W. Bloomfield, an architect. During this time, he won a number of prizes for essays, and he began to steep himself in architectural and art studies, classic literature, contemporary poetry, and fiction. In 1867, he returned to Dorchester to a better position as a church restorer with his former master and began to write more steadily. From this time on, Hardy wrote poetry and novel, though he decided himself chiefly to the novel form until 1895. At first, Hardy published anonymously, but as interest grew in his work, he began to write under his own name. His novels were published for the most part in serial form in well-known magazines, both in England and America. His major novels are Under the Greenwood Tree, Far from the Moving Crowd, The Return of the Native, The Mayor of Casterbridge, The Woodlanders, Tess of the Upper Wilts, and Jude of the Obscure. His works were highly acclaimed, but he also encountered literary hostility. Jude the Obscure received such harsh criticism that Hardy gave up the writing of novels entirely. Hardy retired to his house in Dorchester and there turned to poetry almost exclusively. Before his death, he completed over 800 poems and a long epic drama, The Danish, in 1908. His first marriage was not a happy one, but in 1914, 2 years after the death of his first wife, he married a second time. The remaining supremely happy years of his life were spent in matrimonial devotion and retirement tranquility. The last 2 decades of Hardy's life were increasingly full of honors. With the death of George Meredith in 1909, he became undisputed holder of the title of greatest living man of letters, and in 1910 he was awarded the Order of Merit. His house, Maxgate, became a literary shrine, and there he received many visitors from all over the English speaking world. He continued to publish poetry well into the 1920s. Even though he was then over 80, he died at the age of 87 on 11th January in 1928.